going on, everybody? Welcome to Whistlekick Martial Arts Radio. And on today's episode, I'm joined by Craig and Mark, and we are going to discuss the question, is weapons training still relevant today? If you're new to the show, check out whistlekick.com for all the things that we're doing. Check out whistlekickmartialartsradio.com. whistlekickmartialartsradio.com for all the things related to this show. I have no idea what episode number this is going to be, but episode 851 released on Thursday. So, there's a lot going on. If you are listening and not watching, you might be wondering, hey, Jeremy, that's not going to stay there, well. Why is there so much background noise? Why do you sound so different? Well, because the three of us are in a car driving to Free Training Day Mid-Atlantic, and we are using my GoPro to capture the video. That works. And if you're listening rather than watching, you're probably going to miss some interesting impromptu things. And if nothing else, you can see me in sunglasses
and witness him driving.
And witness me driving. I will have to censor my language. I'm in Connecticut right now. It's great. So, gentlemen, weapons training. And I think this is a great subject. This was Andrew's
Andrew
subject,
asked
right?
us, yeah.
Andrew posed this. Well, I have some experience training with weapons. And I don't do it as often now. Whereas the two that I'm with spend a lot of time training with weapons.
I dabble.
So I think let's unpack the question a little bit more. The question is it relevant really because nobody's walking around with a katana. Nobody's walking around with nunchaku. And there's probably somebody out there going, but wait, I do. That's fine. You're the exception. You know it. Just go away. Stop. Don't literally go away. Just chill out because we're not talking to you. We're talking to the majority of people. Plenty of people carry a pocket knife. Way more people these days carry a handgun than carry tonfa. So if this is the question, is it still relevant? I turn it to you. Who wants to go first?
You want to go first?
Would you like to start, or would you like me to?
Oh, I'll start. Of course it's still relevant.
Why?
Because you have the freedom to train however you want, right? So if weapons training is something that's interesting to you for any sense of any reason,
That doesn't make it relevant.
But it is if you define the scope. If you say I'm learning tonfa because I want to learn how to fight other people with tonfa,
practically relevant. I'm going to add the word practical to the question.
Then I would argue practically it depends on the weapon. Right?
I will interject right now.
Good.
Because the thing is, we want to talk about functional strength, right? So how many people lift weights?
A lot of people lift weights.
How many people get out there with a rope and do this? How many people take a sledgehammer and speak things like this?
Sure.
This builds a certain type of strength.
So your contention is that
Weapons.
if nothing else, weapons, because they have weight, most of them, make you stronger in at least some way, and that has functional relevance.
They will build functional strength as opposed to the bulk muscles. They'll build the ligaments and tendons, which is, well, I'm 65, so I'll take the ligaments and tendons any day now. But again, if you get out there with a weapon, either one-handed or two-handed, and you just start training and moving around, not only do you strengthen that one muscle, you strengthen all the muscles. I heard someone a long time ago say they could not get a workout from their walk. I shook my head like, oh my goodness gracious. If you do open-handed form, I slap wrist weights on.
Yep.
You can get cardio, you can get weight training, you get all kinds of training. You go back to your weapons. Down to the eon.
So I think we can probably agree that being stronger is an advantage.
There's also the fact that it improves your dexterity and your hand-eye coordination depending on the weapon. If you're picking up a rope dart and you're flinging and you're moving and you're aiming at targets, you have to work on that dexterous movement, A, because that thing's flying back at your head, but B, because you're trying to hit a target with something that's very difficult to control.
Do you have a rope dart for these people on the left? You're merging. What are you doing?
Oh, you're a little aggressive.
No, they're aggressive.
So there is.
merged early.
So there is that, right? Like that you have that dexterous ability along with the functional strength.
I am not letting you in.
And I find that this is gonna be the best episode ever.
Best ever.
And I find that to be one of the most primary benefits that I enjoy about martial arts training.
Sure. All right, so we've made a strong case that weapons as training tools to enhance empty-handed technique, training, strength, functionality, usage, etc. make sense. And I suspect most of the audience would agree with that. How else does weapons training have relevance today?
Well, one of the best things we talk about when we train is that it can be an equalizer, right? If you learn how to properly carry a knife or a cane, right, which is one of the more universal weapons you can carry around with you, it doesn't matter if you're older or weaker than somebody who attacks you. If you have the weapon, it can equalize that disadvantage, if not put it in your favor, as long as you train properly with it.
Okay. What about, so we're trying to approach weapons as a collective, right? And certainly we can, there's a big difference between training with a knife versus, I'll go back to the example of tunfa, because I think that's, in a sense, one of the less practical weapons to carry because it's bulky, and I just think it's a good standard. If we can find a reason why tunfa are relevant, then it'll apply to pretty much anything else. And for those of you who may not train in Japanese kobudo, tunfa is like the nightstick that some police officers carry.
I'm going to turn it back over to you.
Why we train with the one other thing about weapons training is that's why I appreciate Kali so much, because Kali can be a gateway to your weapon training in your kung fu or your Japanese kobudo or any art like that. Because the one thing Kali teaches you can pick up anything and it can become a weapon. Now, I love all those old Chinese films. And once in a while, I think it was Jackie Chan, he was fighting someone who had two metal tonfa. And all of a sudden, the guy with the metal tonfa broke a chair up. And all of a sudden, Jackie Chan picked up two legs of the chair and had two wood tonfas. Now, yes, true, you couldn't use those like sticks. But if you had the chance to make it a little more, there you go. So now you can take your stick or your club or your knife and you can just start to expand upon it. It's like having tools in your toolbox. The more tools in the toolbox you have, the more you get done and the better off you're going to be.
I would agree, and that's a good lead-in for the part that I wanted to express. There is no weapon available that gives you more options than not having a weapon. There are, Craig, how many different hand techniques are there? Right, I'm asking the Kempo guy, right? Because they are experts at looking at the hands and the arms in as many different possible ways as possible. Dozens, right?
A multitude.
But if I give you a pair of nunchaku, you've got a few ways you can approach that.
Yep.
And I think that there's something really elegant and powerful in learning how to handle situations with fewer options. If you've taken a seminar that I've taught, that's essentially what I do. I make you do the same with less stuff. And then as you get to go back to your full tool set, you go, wow, look at all of these things in all these ways I hadn't considered before. So when I think about the implementation of weapons and how it forces you to approach everything differently, footwork, how you're executing your techniques with your hands, your weapons, I think there's a lot of value there because it's a different perspective.
Yeah, I would agree. I was laughing when you said if they've ever taken a seminar with you and you take it away. If you've ever taken a seminar with me, I show you all the different ways you can hit somebody with a hand position. The other corollary that I was thinking of, and one of the things I've enjoyed doing from time to time, is I've had the opportunity to work with some federal firearms instructors, right? And so there was one instructor in particular who spent his time teaching us how to draw and holster the firearm. And I found incredible similarity between that and the time I spent studying Iaido. Right? The concepts were similar. So not just drawing the samurai sword, right? Like you also can then go, okay, well, the similar concepts apply to a modern day weapon. And I think that's important too, that if you just take it as no one carries a sword around anymore, sure, fine, you're right. But people still carry around umbrellas. I mean, there's news stories all the time of people getting attacked with baseball bats or knives, or I remember about 6 months ago there was somebody who held up the Dunkin' Donuts down the street from my house with a machete, right? Like, those things happen. So to say that people don't walk around with a sword anymore, that's true. But like Mark said, anything can become a weapon, right? Somebody can pick up a stick on the street, it becomes something. So,
and how about the fact that, you know, you use this example of a machete. A machete and a sword are not the same thing, but it's similar, right? You can see one from the other. If you know how to use a sword, well, you understand the weaknesses in using a sword.
right.
Which means if you have to face someone swinging a machete, you have a bit better of a chance.
Yeah.
Because you understand what they can and cannot do with that machete. And I think that's important.
Now, forms are beautiful. Forms are wonderful things with weapons.
Mm-hmm.
And again, you work your cardio, you work your strength, you work everything else. But when you start to break down the basic rules, it even becomes even more fundamental. In the Kali I do, Takini Jushin's arts, we have 12 basic strikes. And we will use those strikes for each and every weapon. So we don't continuously add things on. We use the 12 strikes that we know, so we can enter, escape, counter, whatever we need to do. However, when I start doing my Shaolin, I use the concept from those 12 strikes into the weaponry I use there. So now, Kali is a very combative form of martial arts. So now I've crossed over the combative into the forms themselves to make something beautiful, much more combative.
And another instructor that I've worked with, Sean Walt Lysak, talks all the time about there's really two types of weaponry. There's conventional and unconventional. There's the pocket knife you carry around, and then there's the backpack you've got carrying your stuff, right? So just opening your mind to the concept that really there's weapons anywhere you need one, and that you should use it to your advantage if you can is an important skill for reality fighting too.
Sure. So I think we're all on the same page, but maybe for slightly different reasons, that yes, weapons training is still relevant. It doesn't have to be part of what you do. But if you are excluding training with weapons because you're not going to walk down the street with a sword or a staff, then hopefully you're only ever training in street clothes and shoes and you train outside in all weather, right? Like, just because something has value doesn't mean it is 100% equivalent to the scenario that you may be confronted with.
Once you get into That's what I would call reality-based martial arts, and then what I would call just plain silly martial arts, or combat system. I do not want to get punched in the face during training. I do not want to use live blades when I'm training. I don't want to use live sticks when I'm training. But when I get the functional training from the weapons, where I can do drills, work my core, work my ligaments, tendons, and muscles, that's the best you're going to get without getting punched in the face or hit with a stick. I know Chris Casabasa, he used to use, when he did tournaments, which he did many tournaments of traditional martial arts, he would use a heavier staff when he did his training, so he could get that extra power, that extra oomph.
Sean Casabasa has been on the show, of course, and is best known for playing Scorpion in most of the incarnations of Mortal Kombat. Anything else we got to throw on this fire here? I think we got it.
I think that we hit all the points that needed hit.
Okay. All right. Well, I want to thank all of you for listening or watching. If you have a topic or guest suggestion, don't be afraid to fill out the form at whistlekickmartialartsradio.com. If you like what we do, consider supporting us, whether that's through the Patreon, starting at a whopping $2 a month, or picking something up at the store at whistlekick.com, whether that be a shirt or protective equipment, maybe a training program or something else. And of course, the thing that I would most ask all of you, please tell other people about what we do. Help us grow, help us reach more martial artists in our effort to connect, educate, and entertain all of you throughout the world, no matter what you train, how you train, etc. I appreciate you all, and until next time,
Train hard.
Smile.
and have a great day.
One take. We didn't even have to try.
Bam!